Good evening, everybody. It's 7 o'clock Central on a Wednesday, and this is the Hang Up. What am I hung up on this week? Well, lots of stuff, actually. I got a couple news items to get through. One is that the United States House of Representatives is an absolute mess right now. Kevin McCarthy, who's the leader of the Republican Party, he got elected leader of that, was essentially expecting to be made a Speaker of the House. And even moved into the speaker's office before any of this stuff happened. He has now lost 5 or 6 votes. I lost count. I think it's 6, but I don't want to be misrepresenting the truth here. And this is the first time in over a century that it took more than 1 vote. As a matter of fact, we don't know how many votes it's taken because as of just before this show went live, they still have not elected a Speaker of the House, and Kevin McCarthy is losing support because it's a great opportunity for people to kind of poke back. So I have no idea when this will over, but when this will be over. But the House of Representatives can't do anything until this is done. All of the Republican agenda is being stalled by ultra right wing MAGA folks who are mad that Kevin McCarthy, who flew down to Mar-a-Lago to pose with Donald Trump after the January 6th insurrection, simply isn't pro-Trump enough, which might actually make me grateful that the party is so divided that they won't get anything done for a little while. That's news article number 1. The second one that I found interesting today is that Elon Musk is a liar. Now, we already knew this, and he's unimpressive on the whole, but he tweeted out that the United States government demanded the suspension of 250,000 Twitter accounts, including those belonging to journalists and Canadian officials. Except that's not what happened. And news stories, if you go like Google, Elon Musk, U.S. government demands suspension, most of the news articles aren't any sort of investigative journalism at all. They're just reporting Elon claimed this and not going any further. The GC report specifically stated that this information, this list of accounts on suspect accounts, was for informational purposes only, and that no action was requested. I don't know how someone can read something that says no action is requested and suggest to everyone that this is a demand for suspension. People are complaining that the news is silent about this outrageous thing, and yet news stations are reporting what Elon has said over and over again. What they're not doing is correcting the story. Most of them are just lazily reporting on Elon's tweet as if the tweet is the news story, without clarification that, in fact, the report says this is for informational purposes only, situational awareness purposes, and that no action was requested. The third little bit of news that hit me today has to do with Jordan Peterson. Now, for those who aren't aware, Jordan and I sat down in, I think it was Montreal, several years ago for a conversation where I had the opportunity to expose some of his irrationality, his lack of understanding of humanism and ethics and morality and a number of other things. But he is upset because basically he's complaining that an ethics board that he's somehow a part of as an organization of psychologists or psychiatrists, based on complaints about something he said on a podcast on January 25th of 2022, so almost a year ago. There were complaints that came in, and they are saying he may have lacked professional in his public statements on that podcast. And because of that, they're demanding that he pick a coach, gave him a couple of options, to evaluate with him, to review, reflect, and ameliorate his professionalism in public statements. And so he gets to sit down and basically explain and talk to one of their representatives to figure out what he said, was it a problem, and what he may need to do to remedy it. Now, I said it would be very nice to know what he actually said so that we can evaluate whether or not this is just, because it may be that they're unjustly going after Jordan Peterson. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, I hate this guy and I hope they take his license. I don't know. Maybe this is overreach, but I don't have enough information to determine whether or not it's overreach at all. And considering I think the podcast was Joe Rogan, I wouldn't, and that I've, actually had dinner with the man and engaged with him in conversation on stage, it wouldn't surprise me that he did something that was perhaps unprofessional and didn't shine the best light on his profession. But he replied to me or retweeted me with an answer saying that he will make all the concrete allegations 100% public, except for identifying the complainants tomorrow. Add this to the list of projects I'm working on and other things that can or have gone wrong recently, and I find myself wondering, what should I focus on? What's truly worth my time? Which is why tonight my guest is my friend Dave Warnock, who is here to give me some perspective. Welcome, Dave. How you doing?
Oh, not going to give you perfect anything. Hey, Matt, I'm good. I'm good to be with you tonight.
So, for those who don't know, Dave Warnock has been doing a podcast. He's worked with me on Atheist Experience and here and other things. And he has ALS and has been pushing this message of dying out loud and kind of reminding all of us, as someone who's heading towards a seemingly unavoidable end, barring some miraculous cure. And I really value Dave's thoughts on perspective. Dave and I aren't always going to agree on anything, and yet it's never caused a problem. But today, Dave, how are you figuring out what to focus on? What things are you letting go of? Which ones have been more important?
It's a struggle to figure that out. I've recently, just this week, I've made the tough decision to put my Monday night live stream show on hiatus, the GD show, and maybe permanently, or at least for a while, because of that very word focus that you used before. I don't have all the focus that I need to get everything done. I don't think anybody does. But to your point, I have limited time left, and so I've got to decide what is worth my time and attention, focus, and energy. And I don't always know the right answer for that, but I do have a couple of projects that I know are going to demand my time this year and my focus. And one of them is writing my next book, most likely my last book. And the other is forming a nonprofit. Bevan and I have been talking about that for a year now. And we know it's time to form this 501c3 nonprofit foundation to benefit people with ALS and other terminal diseases, and help them find the moments in their life as their life ebbs away. That's a big thing for me to do. And getting the book finished is a big thing for me to do. I can't do that and do a weekly show. I mean, you of all people know what.
There's a reason I don't have a book out.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that when I wrote my first one, that's all I did. I mean, every day I wrote, and it doesn't get done unless you attack it with that kind of ferocity. And so I've got to let something go. And I hated it, man. I know that people love the show. I love doing the show. I love people would say it's my, favorite show on YouTube, other than Matt's shows, obviously. But I just knew that I felt like I was letting them down in some ways to say, we're going to end this. I mean, we had an emotional show Monday night, and, I was crying. Genevieve was crying. People in the chat it was just tough to say goodbye to it, but I knew I had to, and I've got to get these other things done because I'm the only one that can do these other things. And there's other shows out there that people can do. So how do you figure out what's worth your time and energy? I know that
ready to connect. Click connect.
I know that following the brouhaha in the Republican House is not worth near the time and energy I've given it in the last couple of days, because it's been like watching a train wreck. You can't look away. But it's like, okay, enough, Dave. Go do something productive. I can't watch this shit show any longer. But it's tough to figure out what's worth your attention. It is.
I hope you'll do me a favor, because with the GD show on hiatus, that means Genevieve should have more time to come do an episode of the Hang Up some Wednesday night. I don't know what her schedule's like, but
well, she mentioned that actually at the end of the show. She said, I need to get back with some folks that, to get on these shows and do these things, because she really likes doing them. And so, yeah, she'll reach out to you. I'll make sure.
Well, if you're listening, you can be on as early as next week if you'd like, because I don't have a guest next week. And you're welcome back whenever you want, because I absolutely love the way she does stuff. And I need people on, quite frankly, who contrast with me in a number of different ways. Because if it's just like Jimmy and I have been doing the Sunday show, and I genuinely love doing shows with Jimmy. But if we both get riled up, it's like, it's too much. And, I'm already potentially too much for some people, depending on how things are going. But when you're looking around, I don't know. I know you get that you say that it's hard, but do you have some like even abstract checklist of I start by caring about things that are going to affect me and Bev personally, or I start with the things that can be dealt with the quickest. This process of basically triaging all the things in your life. When you're talking about like in an emergency room and you're triaging, you start with the people who are closest to death, but not so far that they're necessarily going to die before you can do anything. So it's this weighing of it. When you hear a news item, like we lost the Supreme Court, we lost Roe, we have just a mess left and right. There are people out there who genuinely think that the last election was stolen, and they're outraged over it. Evidence doesn't seem to matter to them. Now you've got this dance between the ALS focused portion of what you're doing, the religion focused portion of what you're doing, potential political stuff, and then somewhere in here has to be time for your personal life. I know we're going to go enjoy ourselves in February and stuff like that. Where does it come out on the scales for you most? Where are you finding, even if you don't have a plan, where do you find you're more comfortable prioritizing?
Yeah, that's a challenge every day for us, Matt. The reality in our life is that I have increasingly more and more needs for people to help me. Bevan is the person that falls on every single day, and we're talking basic stuff like getting fed and getting dressed and just functioning on a daily level. If I'm needing to go somewhere, I typically have to go to a coffee shop to write, so Bevan has to take me to do that and come pick me up, and that just takes so much time out of the day. And then she's got other stuff going on, so it's a constant struggle. What goes to the top of the list? Obviously the basic human needs take precedent every day, but then in terms of projects, I tried to balance the ALS thing with the religion thing, and focus, and how do I parse out time for those different avenues. The foundation that we're going to start will kind of bridge those two in a way. It'll be an organization that helps people with ALS and other terminal diseases, but it'll be from a secular perspective, founded and directed by atheist and non-religious people. It's important for me to make that distinction because there's no other foundation out there I know of that makes that distinction, so that people know that the good things that these folks are doing so not because they believe in a God and they're instructed by a God to help you, but because humans help humans. And that's the only help we ever get is from another human being, not from some deity that is answering some prayer. And so for us to get to do this foundation and help people with these basic human needs who are struggling with diseases that are taking everything away from them is important for us. Bevan's doing a fundraiser coming up in March in Kansas. She's doing a 60 at 60 race to raise money for this very thing, for another foundation that we're connected with. So these things are near and dear to our hearts, but doing shows like this with you and doing my own show where we engage with religious people who believe things that are not true and don't engage in critical thinking, and trying to help more people go through life with critical thinking skills and not believe superstitious. And those are important to me too. So I don't have an easy answer. It's the constant struggle, I guess, on a daily basis to find the balance.
There's a lot of things I'd do for you. I'd love to say that I'd go run, 60K, 60 miles, 60 feet. Unfortunately, it would probably kill me. So I'd rather do some other things, but good on those people who can. I'm sure you've already perhaps done this, but if you haven't already, I'd recommend reaching out to Dr. Darrell Ray, who's not only set up Recovering from Religion, but the Psychotherapy Project and others, because it sounds like the nonprofit that you're setting up is something akin to, Recovering from Religion from a secular perspective, or the Psychotherapy Project in giving resources to people with ALS where they're not going to be
Exactly.
directed at. So,
yeah, I
if you
actually
haven't,
talked to Daryl. I talked to Daryl today, and he's agreed to guide us through the process. He sent me his list of 5 simple rules of what not to do when forming a nonprofit. So he's been very helpful already.
first thing I'd recommend is get a damn board.
Yeah, we're working on that.
I've watched some nonprofits where, for whatever reason, if there's not a board, it can really get messy, and there needs to be policies in place to manage the internal running of it. Otherwise, when something goes wrong, it can all crumble, and all the good work can go right down the drain. So and it's one of those things where, like, I've worked with a number of different nonprofit organizations, and I understand protecting them. But then I also understand that, sometimes protecting them can get in the way of doing the right thing. But I'm excited, and of course I'll be here to help out in whatever way I can, which doesn't include running at this particular moment. But
well, listen, I'm not
all the rest of it I'll do.
Yeah,
so
I appreciate that.
We've got a bunch of calls. We have 4 calls, all from theists. You feeling like jumping into some theist calls tonight?
Why not? We're already here. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Well, because I said I would. Olivia, pronouns are she, her in Texas. Welcome. Thanks so much for calling. You're on with Dave and Matt.
Thank you. Hello?
All right. What do you got for us?
Oh, I was here. Okay. So my basic premise is this. I do want to believe and admit. So it is, I just want to define God as the greatest possible being. So if the universe is the universe is infinite, so that means the possible being exists. Therefore, there you go. It's kind of like there you go. Whatever that possible being is, it exists because the universe is infinite and all possible things exist in the infinite universe.
The universe isn't infinite, and not everything that's possible does exist. And if you've just defined it as the greatest possible being, you have no idea. How do you know I'm not the greatest possible being? How do you know that there's not a being that's just a little bit greater than the average or the best human, a little bit greater than the best human on some other planet, and that's as good as we can actually get?
I assume that the greatest possible being is far better than human.
Well, you don't get to assume. That you might as well just be saying, I'm just going to assume that there's a God. But okay, we'll go with it. However far beyond humans you think the greatest possible being is, the universe isn't infinite, and the universe, even if it were infinite, does not mean that anything that's possible necessarily exists. Neither of those follow. So are you saying, is that all you have to go on? I mean, do you know anything about the characteristics of this being?
No, I would say that as long as it has any property that is not logically excluded, by being the virtue of impossible. But as far as my understanding, and I'm always able to be corrected, that science does believe the universe is infinite, and in that infinity, all possible things happen.
I'm sorry, but the universe isn't necessarily infinite. But let's assume, is it possible that a horse with a spiral horn that glows in the dark, is that something that could possibly exist in the universe?
Yes, I don't see why not.
So then,
yes,
according to you, because it could possibly exist, it absolutely exists somewhere in the universe, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Does it necessarily exist somewhere in the universe right now, or does it exist in the universe in some future time?
Both.
Both. So
both.
If this is true at every point. So if we go back to 1 minute after the Big Bang expansion, that unicorn existed then too?
No, it would be impossible 1 minute after the Big Bang because
Why?
The universe was in a hot plasma state. So, but it started to exist the moment it became possible for it to exist.
Okay. So the instant it's possible for life to exist, it necessarily must then exist. I don't understand how you're making this logical leap, because first of all, that has nothing to do with the universe being infinite. The universe isn't spatially infinite. We know that. And it's only possibly one-way infinite with regard to time, and time began with that. So I don't know what makes you think that a horse with that spiral horn can possibly exist now. What if it's actually the case that it can only possibly exist in another 150 million years, that is the first point at which it can possibly exist? What is your expertise that allows you to conclude it's possible now?
Well, that it's not impossible now, and that
no.
Universe,
I'm sorry, Olivia. The fact that something isn't impossible now, you don't know that it's not. You don't know that it is not impossible now.
Well, lightning bugs exist, and
I didn't ask about lightning bugs. I didn't ask about lightning bugs. I asked about a specific hypothetical creature, and you're saying it's not impossible, and I'm saying, how did you prove that it's not impossible?
Because all things that can evolve have evolved in the infinite universe.
No, that's not how evolution works. That's not how possibility works. That's not how logic works at all. Dave, you want to jump in here? I'm failing.
Olivia, you have to realize you're just making shit up here. You stack one assumption on top of another, and you have no facts or evidence to support any of it. You do realize that, right? Tell me you do.
Well, I am stacking assumptions, right? So I just stack. The first assumption is that the universe is infinite. I think I have the very good reason for that to believe that.
Well, Matt's giving you that. Okay, so what? But you're now assuming that because a God could possibly exist, he therefore does, or she or it. And then you've gone ahead and described this God as whatever you want it to be, or whatever you think it is, because it could possibly be, and it's not impossible. None of this makes any sense, Olivia. Because something could possibly exist, it does? Seriously? That's your argument?
Possible things do exist. I'm just saying, what's the greatest possible thing?
No, all possible things don't exist. Where did you get that?
Why wouldn't they? If it's possible and the universe is infinite, they would necessarily exist.
No, I have a die here.
That's not how it works.
I have a die here that could possibly roll one of 20 different numbers. That doesn't mean that if I drop it, it rolled all 20 of them. It rolls one, and it might keep rolling everything. It might keep rolling everything except for that one forever. So the state of affairs that can be possible doesn't mean that it is actual. That's why we describe it as possible, not absolute. The fact that you think that because something is possible means that it is true is that's false. But the fact that you think something is possible merely because it's not been demonstrated to be impossible is also false. How did you determine that a glowhorn unicorn, what is called a glowhorn, was impossible 1 minute after the universe began, is possible now? Tell me at what point it became possible and how you know that.
Well, because of the physical state of the universe, it was impossible during that time.
How do you know? I said, at what point did that glowhorn become possible, and how do you know?
Well, I don't have the exact second, and
you don't have any way to demonstrate it, even to an approximation.
Well, that's probably true. I'm not a scientist like that, so I can't, demonstrate.
Scientists don't know either. If you were a scientist, you would understand that because something hasn't been shown to be impossible does not mean it's possible, and also that just because something is possible doesn't mean it is. If you were scientifically minded, you would know that. You would also know that the universe is not infinite.
Well, and
that being infinite doesn't mean
that it's infinite.
Are you suggesting that right now, somewhere in the universe, at this exact moment, there are a whole slew of monkeys who are actually typing up the works of Shakespeare?
They're randomly typing.
Olivia, I really need you. Olivia, I need you to really buckle in. Listen very carefully to the word of this question, because it's specific for a reason. Are you saying that because you think it's possible, that a million monkeys could bang away on a keyboard and produce Shakespeare's entire works, that because that's possible, right now, somewhere in the universe, it's actually happening. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, this is a hard one. I'm going to say
it's real fucking easy if you're going to be intellectually consistent.
It's going to make me crazy, but yes, I do believe that.
Okay.
Some alien race is enslaving a million monkeys
we're going to let you go now. We're going to let you go now, Olivia. I've got other callers on the line.
Thank you.
I don't know what else. I don't know what else to tell you. You were waiting for the perfect call. Here's the thing. Do you think the perfect call is possible?
No, perfection isn't possible.
Then why did you say you were going to wait for the perfect call to call in? I tell you what, this was not the perfect call. It was your reasoning is flawed and broken at every possible point, including saying that because it's possible that monkeys could be typing Shakespeare, it's necessarily happening right now. I would recommend that you drop this line of thought, because I think it seems to be motivated from a desire to seem reasonable in believing in a God that you know nothing about. You don't know any properties of it. You don't have any demonstration that it's even possible. You just want to say nobody's shown it isn't possible. Therefore, it's possible. Therefore, it's real. And that's not how it's happening. Is it possible? Is it possible that that there's another me in this universe who didn't have heart surgery, or am I unique in this universe?
I think that both exist, that there are a bunch of you who did have it, and then a bunch of you who have not had it, and you all exist.
That's not the way the universe. That's not the way the universe works. I'm sorry, but thanks for calling, Olivia.
I think Olivia may be trolling us here. Yeah, I don't know. That it seems a little like she can't really be thinking this stuff. I don't know. That's just
I would like to think that, but then. So this is another thing, and we'll be getting to another call in just a minute. This is another thing. I've been doing these call-in shows for almost 18 years. And one thing I try to do is not assume, unless there's a really good reason, that somebody's trolling me, because in all those years, I've seen people who will believe almost anything. And these are confusing topics.
Yeah. You're right. You've probably had calls similar to this before, but man, I just wow, it's just so far fetched. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's what's happened is that confusion about possibility and its distinction from probability has got Olivia thinking that there are multiple copies of me in the universe doing all different things. Now, she may be thinking in a multiversal sense, where everything that's ever possibly happened, and the multiverse being the hypothetical state of affairs in which every possibility occurs everywhere. But even in multiversal sense, possibility needs to be demonstrated. Something isn't possible merely because it hasn't been shown that it's impossible.
Yeah.
So even in a multiversal sense, it might still be impossible that maybe every version of me that might exist in a multiverse, all of them had heart surgery. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe one of them didn't. But the possibility needs to be demonstrated, and the other thing that needs to be demonstrated is impossibility. Until then, if somebody asks if something is possible, the only viable answer is I don't know. And I think Olivia, like many people, is just reluctant to acknowledge that they don't know. But
I wonder if all of the me's have ALS. That's another question we probably ask her, but no, I need to move on from that.
All right. We got more callers. We've got Tupac in California is a theist caller who didn't offer up any pronouns. So I won't assume anything. Welcome, sir. Or ma'am, or
all
other.
Right. Tupac. All right. Thank you.
Hey.
All right. All right. So I'm calling in because I don't think that oh sorry, I heard my echo. I'm calling in because I don't think that theists are necessarily on trial to be forced to present evidence for God. Unless they're trying to force that belief on you.
No.
And
so what we do here on these shows, Tupac, is we say, if you have evidence and good reason for your God, call us and tell us. We're not making outgoing calls. I'm not going door to door knocking on people saying, I demand that you explain yourself right now. That's not what's happening. So what are you objecting to?
Well, I think that in a sense you are, but I can explain why I think
then
that.
you're incredibly confused. Point to a time where I made an outgoing call or ran across somebody out in public and said, I demand that you tell me why you believe in God right now. Demonstrate that that's happened or admit that you're wrong.
Well, I can't demonstrate that that's happened.
Then you're wrong. Goodbye. Here's some tip. I want to get Dave in on the next calls, and we've got theistic callers waiting who are a little more religious. Here's some tips. If you want to make sure that you get to talk longer and that you engage, you need to engage honestly. Do not accuse me of doing something I've never done unless you're willing to back it up. Don't accuse me of anything unless you're willing to back it up. Somebody, not really a friend, but a friend of a friend or acquaintance or whatever, in a private discussion, accused me of arguing fallaciously, and when I asked them to present evidence of that, they blocked me everywhere. I don't give a fuck anymore. You're not going to make accusations about me. So if you say, well, I don't believe you, that's fine. But if you're suggesting that I am, in fact, going around doing stuff like that, that's just ridiculous. I've been doing a call-in show, not a call-out show. Yeah, and the default burden of proof. Yeah, the default burden of proof is on those who believe, because by and large, and granted, different religions are different, but by and large, if you're Christian, for example, you have the Great Commission, and people are going to vote and legislate based on their beliefs, and they want special treatment, and they want privileged status because of their beliefs, and so the burden of proof is on their claim. But
yeah, and the concept you've always presented is simple on all the shows. Tell us what you believe and why you believe it. That's it. And if a caller can't do that or won't do that, as you said, and engage honestly, then they're trying to come in the back door somehow or not have an honest conversation. And you got to wonder why someone is not willing to have an honest conversation. What are you hiding? What are you running from? What are you afraid of? It's not a complicated concept here.
It's very confusing. I'm gonna do my best to give people more time with you, but we have Sky Welch, they, them, who's a theist, who has a question for us. So welcome, Sky Welch. How are you?
Hey, Matt. Hello, David.
Hey, Sky.
I'm doing well today. I'm trying to not laugh so hard at the last two calls. The first one destroyed her argument by saying, when you asked her if she believes in the perfect phone call, and she made the statement, oh, no, perfection is impossible. And I'm like, okay, then God is impossible because he's supposed to be the ultimate perfect being, ultimately good, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. So she just destroyed all future arguments.
To be fair to Olivia, that is not how Olivia defined God. She defined it as the greatest possible being. She did not go for the God of classical theology and the omnis. And it's a mistake to just assume that they're talking about the same God that you or I would be. But that's fine.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was thinking she was coming from the Judeo-Christian.
Yeah, okay. I'm not convinced of that at all. But what direction are you coming from, and how can we help?
Well, it's more a curiosity rather than an argument. I was just wondering if you guys knew of any atheists who believe in the possibility of a soul or reincarnation, since atheism is, if I'm clarifying the definition right, defined as the lack of belief in an intelligent being that runs everything or created the universe. Does that necessarily mean that an atheist has to believe that they do not have a soul or that souls do not exist? Or is it possible for atheists to believe that souls exist with lack of a God?
Well, it's possible for atheists. I don't think it's consistent with skepticism. So while I do know some people who believe in supernatural things, including souls and reincarnation, that don't believe in a God, that's a failure of skepticism on their part, not atheism. Dave, do you know atheists that believe in reincarnation and gods, or without God?
I've not polled them specifically with that question. I wouldn't say offhand I know of any atheists who have declared that they believe in reincarnation or a soul. I agree with you, Matt, that it seems inconsistent with skepticism because there's no way to verify that or prove that. The idea of a soul, first of all, you have to define what is that. And if it's some part of our being that's not what we can see and verify with science, then to me, if you can't demonstrate it and prove it, then you kind of have to say, well, I don't see the evidence for that, so I'm gonna withhold any belief in that. So I personally don't, and I don't know of any that do. I'm not saying that there aren't some out there, because atheists do not have a strict code of dogma that we have to sign off on and believe in, because we all come from different frames of reference and different frame of mind. But I don't know of any personally.
Okay, because I'm trying to figure out, like,
do you
way
believe in those
of
things?
Oh, well, I'm a witch, so I do believe in reincarnation, that we cycle through different lifetimes to learn everything there is possible to learn, and then I don't know what happens after that.
Which lifetime is this for you?
I have no idea.
What did so you don't know if this is the first one or not?
No, I have
well, I'm confused because you said we cycle through multiple lifetimes so we can learn stuff, but if you learn something, you would know it. So if you don't know if this is the first one or not, then clearly you haven't learned anything from any of the ones that came before, which means you should just assume this is the first one, right?
I don't have the means of thinking of a rebuttal for you at the moment.
Well, tell us this. What can give us an example of something you've learned from a previous lifetime? Maybe go that route.
Well, they just said that they don't know if they've had a previous lifetime, and they don't have a rebuttal for that.
So why would you assume that there are multiple lifetimes if you don't have any experiential evidence of that?
Well, I've read different books on various different subjects. There are different versions of reincarnation that people believe in. Some people believe in that your soul retains the knowledge and memories rather than your present biological form retaining those memories. And others believe that you'll have flashes of memories that are not your own that will appear in daydreams or dreams. Neil Donald Walsh, which is a book my father used to read, Conversations with God, and there they talk about how your lifetimes can be measured by your practice of morals. So, for instance, someone like Hitler would be in their first reincarnation of lifetime, their very first lifetime, because their morals are the lowest of the low. They believe in the murder of children and they practice that. Whereas someone like Gandhi, who would want to save people, would be more toward the end of his cycles.
So hypothetically, Gandhi could be a reincarnation of Hitler?
Correct.
Okay, that's different. I personally, Sky, this falls under the category for me of religion, in that religion in large part, I believe, is designed or produced by mankind to find answers for things we don't know. And usually those answers are in the form of wanting to make more of this life than it really is. Like in the Christian faith from where I came, it was heaven and hell. There's an afterlife, there's eternal life, and that you live this life as a precursor to the eternal life. And all of this, to me, is designed to minimize the one life we do know we have. We do know that we're here now, that we have this life. And I see attempts by people, and I think this reincarnation and this soul idea is another one of those attempts to avoid the finality of death. And I find I think that does us a disservice, because whenever we avoid the finality of death and not come to terms with our mortality, by definition, that's going to cause us to minimize this one life and not make the most of it. And I find that's unfortunate, because this is the life we know we have. And if we can come to terms with our mortality and the finality of it, then we can get busy living this life and making the most of it, rather than oh, what am I going to come back as? Or I'm going to be in heaven with Jesus, or in heaven with 60 virgins, or whatever our version of eternal life is. And that to me is just fantastical thinking and fantasy. That's my
okay. I like your perspective on that, because it's a question that I've been trying to figure out how to answer for a friend of mine. My friend's point of view on atheism is that atheism means you have no purpose. And if you have no purpose, then it leads to suicidal ideations. And I know that that's not the perspective
True.
of atheists.
It shouldn't be the perspective of anybody.
No, I'm
Right.
an atheist. You may not know, Sky, I have a terminal disease. I've got very limited time left on this in this life, and I am an atheist, and I have all kinds of purpose, because I create my own purpose and I find my own meaning every single day.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear that, and I hope that you know, it's a terminal illness, so maybe that things will get easier for you. I
appreciate that,
it's
but
one
they
of those
won't.
things
They'll
I've kind
get
of
harder.
Yeah. The other
it's
thing is
something
that
I've struggled with my roommate on things, is that trying to figure out how to explain that no, it doesn't mean that you have no purpose. It means that your point of view of where your purpose comes from, it changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because Christians believe that it's not within their control, that God determines what their purpose is.
Right.
Whereas an atheist creates their own purpose and drives their life.
Right, but the thing that you were implying is that that sort of purpose isn't good enough.
I'm sorry. Which sort of purpose am I implying? Because
the only sort of purpose that we have any reason to think is real. There's no reason to think that there's any sort of external purpose for our lives. As a matter of fact, if there were such a thing, people would rebel against it. I don't know why. They're like, oh, I'm religious, or I'm a witch, or I'm pagan, or I'm a theist, because it gives me purpose. If the government were trying to tell you what your purpose of your life would be, or your parents were, you'd be rebelling against it. So it's ridiculous that people are like, oh, this self-defined purpose, the only one that we have any hope currently, is true. Mm-hmm. That's just not enough. So I need to be a theist or a pagan or whatever, some stripe, so that I get an external purpose. It is absolute hogswill that an externally imposed purpose is the only one that matters, that somehow life is less valuable if you are the governor of or the master of your own ship. That's just false.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't implying that I believe.
Well, I thought you were saying that. Maybe I misunderstood. I thought you were saying one of the reasons that you're a witch is that.
No. It's an argument I tend to have with a friend of mine, because they continue to say that atheism means that you have no purpose in life. And I've been trying to figure out how to tell them that that's not the case. That
okay, then I misheard you, and I apologize. I have to admit, I apologize. I misheard you, and it probably has something to do with the fact that I don't understand why anybody would be a witch or why anybody would be a theist. But cool.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I understand.
Wait, are you partaking right now?
Partaking.
I don't know. You were coughing, and every time one of my friends is coughing, it's because they're vaping or hitting a bong. Right?
I'm getting over the flu.
Well, then I apologize again, and I hope you feel much better soon. I tell you what, instead of pushing you on this, call back in another time, and we'll talk about, perhaps if you want to, we can talk about why you believe what you believe. But I want to give you one last chance to ask whatever question you think's relevant, especially for Dave, and then we'll move on to some other callers.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll probably call in at a different time. I'd like to try and maybe take notes, because I don't think that my reason for being a witch is something that I can debate that's irrefutable, because I understand that my experiences can't be translated to someone else's experiences, just because I experienced something doesn't necessarily make it true for somebody else, which is the reason why I'm a witch. So I don't typically discuss that in links with people. The only thing I discuss is like when people make the claim, "Oh, witches worship Satan." No, they don't. Not all of them. There probably are some that do, but no, not all witches. I debate the facts, not the skepticism on things.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to talking to you about it.
Thank you guys very much for your time.
Thanks, Guy.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, they were nice, and you know, I part of it is I'm distracted because John Doe is in chat saying I didn't give him a chance to talk. So John Doe, go ahead and call back in, and you can start by retracting your accusation that you didn't want to prove, and then we'll give you more time to talk. There we go.
Yeah, that's pretty simple.
So we got loads of theist callers today, and we're cranking through this. I want to make sure we hit everything. But we got William in Ohio. Pronouns are he, him. Welcome, William. How are you?
Yep, that's right. I'm Billy Rodriguez, same one that tried to chat with you when you were playing that game. Yeah, I'm still got you to say that God existed. When I hear the same evidence, so you want the new stuff.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite understand.
Yeah, I said, well, we chatted earlier. I mean, remember yesterday when you were playing that, I forgot the name or something. Well, anyway, to prove that God exists, I told you the sense of fear and danger, it's something that happens, you have no control over it, if you're seeing something or not.
Well, first of all, I don't accept that. I don't accept that whether or not I don't accept your assertion about whether or not I have control over my fear or sense of danger. But when you say explain that, you do realize, I just want to start this off properly, that if mankind, or me in particular, doesn't have an explanation for something, that does not mean that you're justified in claiming that the explanation is God. You do understand that, right?
True, but I could kind of prove
No, William. Not true, but it's just true.
Well, there's an experiment you can take that will give you some insight.
No, sir. I'm going to give you plenty of time to talk, William, as long as you're not being obstinate here. Okay? It's true that our inability to explain something on its own does not demonstrate that the correct answer is God. That is just true. No ifs, no ands, or buts, correct?
Yeah, I'd say that.
Okay,
but
so why is it? Why is it God? Would you just? I'm trying to help you here, William.
Same here.
Yeah, except that I'm going to succeed.
Well,
why is it that you? I have plenty of reasons for why I think fear exists. Why we experience fear. You think that we experience fear, correct me if I'm wrong, because of a God. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Would you
stop? Would you stop? Here, I'm going to mute you because you won't fucking listen. I'm going to give you a chance to talk, William. I've said that. I'm trying, as a host of a show, to not rely on everybody remembering what you tried to talk to me about the other day. I'm trying to structure a conversation in a format so that when you begin, people in chat aren't clueless. My co-host today isn't clueless. So just answer the questions you're asked, and then you'll get to say all the shit you want to say. So we're now in agreement that our inability to explain something doesn't mean that it's God. But you are convinced that the presence and experience of fear in human beings is explained and best explained by the existence of a God, which you've said yes. And now the follow-up question to that, which if you hadn't interrupted, you would have already been halfway through talking about it, is what is your reason for thinking that the best explanation for why humans experience fear is a God? Continue.
It's because of God. How I know it's because of God. Long ago, I was playing around with the computer, and I think what I was doing, and one day I stumbled upon this, it was on YouTube, it was 72 Demons of the Goetia. I said it was interesting that God doesn't exist. I had this beating fear. Like, what is this? What's wrong? Whatever. I watched it. I fell asleep, and I woke up. There was this presence breathing on me. And then I said, Lord Jesus, please save me. And just like that, it was gone. And after that, I had a vision or a dream, to put it more easier. And it all came together. Dreams cannot be explained, but you know you have one. So that's another proof that God exists. There's purpose, there's a design. And also in your dream, you notice like whatever happens, always it's over a short period of time. And when you wake up, hours have passed. And that's another proof, something that doesn't make sense. I know because I experienced it firsthand, but for you to experience it, go online, look for sigils, 72 Demons of the Goetia, and listen to a chant, loop it overnight. And a dream you have, or vision, better put it, will open your eyes. Also, you need to keep thinking about it and give the demons legal ground. Say their name over and over in the dark.
So, William?
At night. That's how it's done.
So William, you're suggesting that I go on YouTube, watch some video about 72 demons, and
no,
then
you don't
at night...
have to watch it. Just play it at night. Loop it in the dark by yourself.
Yeah, play it while you sleep and call their names
So
out.
while I'm asleep, you want me to have a YouTube video looping in the background, but you also said I needed to say the names of the demons? How do I do that in my sleep?
Well, before that even happened, just like throughout the day, like you say, one demon, I shouldn't be saying his name, so Flaros, Flaron, other ones, Grimory,
William?
you say their name, and keep thinking about it, and play this chant, or
William?
It has to have the sigil.
William!
Stop. William.
If I do this, and I don't have an experience that leads me to believe that there's a God, will you admit that you're wrong?
No, you probably didn't want it, but still, I will give you the credit.
No. Now you're muted because you, sir, are dis-fucking honest. Okay? You cannot call in and say, here's the steps that will demonstrate this to you. And when I ask if I do it and it doesn't happen, will you admit that you're wrong? No, because your answer right then was basically, I must have done something wrong, or I didn't want it, or whatever else. You're already making excuses beforehand, which means you are not an honest interlocutor. Meanwhile, what you've talked about here, and I'm sorry that Dave didn't get to jump in on this, but he possibly can, is that you had a fear, fell asleep, woke up, felt a presence breathing over you, prayed to Jesus, and it stopped. Do you know how many times I've heard that story? Do you know how many times I've experienced that myself while I was a believer? See, here's the psychology of believing, and it's very, very, very similar to the placebo effect. If you are convinced that there is a Jesus that will come and save you from the spirits that you think exist, then it will help you. You know why? Because none of that shit is real. And so the thing that you're afraid of is make-believe, and the thing that you're appealing to is make-believe. And that's why it works, because you are psychologically primed to think that it works. And if you are unwilling to admit that a false test would demonstrate that you are not correct, then you are not an honest interlocutor.
Yeah. Or if that same experience wouldn't produce the same result for everyone who did that, then William, it's not an accurate reflection of something that's verified and true. You had an experience, and your experience caused you to believe that there. Well, no, it was real to you. It
was a dream.
Make it real. Yeah. So if everyone else didn't have that same experience, is God not real to them?
Well, it depends. You have to want it. These demons that are abominable, or their thoughts are evil continuously, you have to give them legal ground.
You had to want to believe. It's what you're saying. You wanted to believe. And that's the bottom line. You wanted to believe. You had some weird experience that caused you to believe that God was there. That's all it is. It's no proof. You kept saying proof. There's no proof here.
It seems to me that
you believe dreams exist.
Sorry,
you had
William.
dreams before, have you?
I've had plenty of dreams. That's what the brain does. That's the current understanding is that this is how the brain processes. This is how. Oh my God! The current understanding of dreams, that this is how the brain processes the information from the day or from the period of time since the last time you dreamed. We don't necessarily know, but dreams aren't real. And if you're the type of person who has a dream and thinks that it's real, then you don't understand rationality or reality. But you also just said that in order for it to work, you have to want it to work. That's not the way reality is. Reality are those things that work whether you want them to or not. And you need to start getting comfortable with the fact that while you are convinced of something, you are convinced of something for bad reasons. And if so, then you just admitted that it's because you wanted to believe it.
Why do you think demons exist? Why do you believe in demons, William? What's the
demons
evidence?
Are real.
How do you know that?
Okay.
No, they're not.
Because I've experienced it firsthand.
No, you haven't.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have. What you need is a sigil, a chant overnight, and you just need to welcome them.
I'm gonna let you go, William, because I'm just gonna move on now because we've got other callers.
Okay, later, bitch.
What's that? Oh, you hung up. You called me a bitch and hung up. Okay.
Later, bitch. I believe that.
All right. So here's the thing: when Dave asks you why do you believe in demons, and your answer is because they're real, you're not listening. You're not thinking. You're not processing what's being said. You are just stubbornly wanting to say, "Here's what I believe. Here's what I believe. Here's what." There's two components to this. One is what do you believe, and the second component is why do you believe it. And merely saying, I believe it because it's true. I believe it because it's real. That's not an explanation. If somebody said, hey, why do you believe that evolution is the best explanation for the diversity of life? Oh, because it is, because it's right, because it's true. No, you would need to actually talk about, first of all, what makes something a valid explanation that has any explanatory power, and then what the evidence is for it and why you're convinced that this particular model is the best explanation. I don't mean to pick on William or anybody else. When we're asking these questions,
he wasn't listening, and he had a predetermined answer, and that's the difficulty with a lot of these conversations is there's not an honest give and take. It's a position they're coming in with, and when you refute that, it's just like no, it's not. It's true because I said it's true, and that's not a conversation.
Really quickly, I have to retract something. There are people who were saying that I said the universe wasn't infinite. I was saying that in response to someone who was asserting that it was. When somebody says something is true and I say it's not true, that doesn't mean I'm asserting that it's false. It means it hasn't been demonstrated to be true. And so for the sake of the universe, yes, technically speaking, we don't know whether or not the universe is infinite. So you can't reach the conclusion that it is, and you couldn't reach the conclusion that it isn't. However, the best current model of the universe shows that it's spatially not infinite, that there is a boundary of our local presentation of the universe. We don't know whether or not there's a multiverse to explore. And since the universe is essentially a function of space-time, if space isn't infinite, then it's fair to say the universe isn't infinite because it would need to be infinite both spatially and in time. That said, time in the current model is one-directionally infinite, which is a little bit different. So my apologies if anybody was confused with it as if I was asserting that I have discovered and demonstrated that the universe is in fact not infinite. That is not what I was intending to say or imply. When I say something is not true, that is not me saying it's false.
I didn't want to interrupt during the call because you'd yell at me, but I almost messaged you. This person listens to Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan mistook what Neil deGrasse Tyson had said about the possibility of a multiverse where every possibility is represented. And then he started telling other people who would come on his show, Neil deGrasse Tyson says the universe is so big that somewhere in the universe is somebody who looks exactly like me, has lived my entire exact life, and then every possible version of me exists. And I literally was like, oh my God, she listened to that and thought, oh, this is true.
Yeah. That's the multiverse hasn't been demonstrated, but.
And demons are there.
But
we have loads more, we have more theists and polytheists and everything else.
Yeah, sorry, I'll shut up.
No, it's fine. By the way, John Doe, you just got to hold on. Yes, I told you to call back in. Sorry you pissed away your first chance. Now you got to sit there and wait. But don't keep bitching in chat, annoying my moderators, because I can still get you to call in, and they can still ban your ass in chat.
I told
giving
him
you a second chance.
I told him he has to wait till Sunday now. Because we have 4 lines, and I'm not going to open a special line for somebody being a dick to mods.
I'm not wanting to open a special line. Just tell him to keep calling right when we get ready to hang up a call.
Oh, I just closed lines because we're an hour in and we have 4 calls. left. Yeah.
Well, I had specifically told somebody to call in, but okay.
My bad.
Fine.
Well,
John Doe, call on Sunday. Then the executive producer and head of the line has decided that you need to call in on Sunday, and I'm going to defer to his wisdom and expertise.
It was only because after you told him to call in, he kept being a dick to mods. So I was like, fuck you, now you can wait until Sunday.
Give him a little timeout. That's going to be good for him.
The time
did give him a timeout.
That's right.
So, in other good news, we have Mike in Virginia. Pronouns are he, him. Mike's a polytheist. How you doing?
Doing good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Care to tell us, ask us your question, or tell us what you believe and why? Because while there are sometimes that I might find polytheism slightly more reasonable than theism, there's other times where I don't. It's like we're multiplying unreasonable things. So whatever it was you wanted to talk about, bring it on. Dave and I are here to help, or not.
All right. Sounds good. My question wasn't specifically with polytheism or trying to prove that it's right. I already know my belief is completely unfounded. It's more the idea of, because I'm a polytheist, is it bad if I try to go into sort of a scientific context? Not context, I'm sorry, like a scientific job, like becoming a paleontologist or becoming a physics major or something of that nature. Something, the guy who was asking me these questions before I got into the call, he put it really well, like grounded science. Is it okay if I'm a polytheist and I still do that, or do I have to be an atheist to be an effective scientist in that same regard?
Does your polytheism in any way impact your job?
Not particularly, not in any way that I can measure, at least.
If you were to discover something about your polytheism that were in conflict with the actual science that you're doing, how would you resolve that?
I would defer my religion to the science that proves it otherwise. So, like, for example, if I can sort of give an example, assuming I'm not stealing time.
Go for it.
Sort of like, I'm what's considered a Hellenistic pagan. I follow the Greek pantheon. As we all know, the Greek pantheon, they believe the moon is a chariot in the sky. Now, of course, because of modern science, we know that it's not a chariot. It's an actual ball of rock up there. So, I've sort of gone to accepting that it's a ball of rock up there, and I've changed my sort of belief to reflect the modern day science rather than, saying, oh, the moon's not a rock, it's a chariot up there, and I've got all the evidence that proves X, Y, and Z about it.
So, as you find things that are in conflict with your paganistic views, if the evidence is in conflict with them, you'll sacrifice those portions of your belief.
Yes.
Okay. This is going to be a difficult question. And Dave, you were getting ready to chime in there. Go for it.
Well, I guess my question is, I'm curious, you hold these polytheistic views and these paganistic views, and you said at the outset that they're unfounded, and you are moving into science and wanting to learn more about science, and you mentioned a job that would be scientific, and you realize, I think it sounds like you're kind of saying that you realize that the more you learn about science, the less you're going to be able to believe in these polytheistic and paganistic views. I guess my question is, why do you hold to them now?
I'll be completely honest. I hold to them for the sake of peace of mind. There's something oddly relaxing about that sort of idea of not like I have to follow a set of rules because some dude in the sky told me I'm supposed to, but more just so that sort of peace of mind of, hey, somebody's looking. If the entire world seems like they're against you, somebody's looking.
I appreciate that honest answer, because I think that is the honest answer. If I wish more theists were that honest, or polytheists, or any believer in a religious deity, because I do believe that many people simply want to believe that there's somebody there looking out for me. Against all evidence, against all reason and logic, they want to believe that there's some sky daddy somewhere that's that knows who I am and has my best interests at heart, even though it makes literally no sense that there's anything like that out there. At least you're honest about it, Mike, which, God, I appreciate that. I just wish there were more folks. And I guess what it flies in the face of is something I mentioned to another caller earlier. It saddens me in a way, because it says that someone who holds to those beliefs is basically saying that this life is not enough, that this world, this human existence that I get to enjoy, that I'm lucky enough to get to have, is just not enough. I need there to be something more. And I really do resist that, because I do think that this life that we do have, this human existence that we get, that we're lucky enough to have, is and should be enough. And if we're holding on to these other ideas, then we're going to miss this thing that we have. And that's the thing I say over and over again, because it's that important to me.
I will say I have concerns, and I'm sure you'll follow this rather easily. Generally speaking, if your religious beliefs of whatever stripe they are don't impact your job, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be bad at your job. I mean, Francis Collins, became a Christian because of a waterfall frozen in 3, but he was also the head of the Human Genome Project. I think where science and his religion come in conflict, I don't think he so much sets his religion aside as rationalizes a way to try to focus on and accept the science. But it's undeniable that his beliefs are going to be in conflict with it at some point. And in your case, you're essentially saying you believe X and that X is unfounded, which is already a problem, which means you're not being skeptical. It means you don't care enough about whether or not your beliefs are true. You've already said that you believe it because it's comfortable, comforting, and that you'll keep believing it until it's scientifically proved false. Well, question number 1 is, and don't answer right away because there's several here, what if it's unfalsifiable? That means you'll keep believing something that's probably or possibly not true, and have no chance of ever correcting that, which means you care more for comfort than you do for truth. And yet you also said that you would defer your beliefs to science. So what if the scientific truth you discover is less comfortable than your pagan views? Now you're in a catch-22 where you say, I'll defer my beliefs to the science, but you will also defer and have deferred rationality to comfort, which means you could be in a position where the uncomfortable scientific truth, which you would favor comfort and science, is now up against a comfortable, irrational view. And so now you've got views that are in conflict, and I don't know how you resolve that. And this is one of the reasons why I prize skepticism and why I'm not going to believe anything just because it's comfortable.
That's a good question. That's a very good question, and I'm very glad you asked that, because I like questions like that. I think to some degree, I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure what's a good one to start with. Pardon me, could you clarify your first question really quick?
What if your pagan beliefs are unfalsifiable, meaning that they could possibly be untrue, but there's no way to ever discover that?
Gotcha. I suppose if there's a belief out there that I have that's not true, but I have no way to prove that it's not true, I guess honestly to me it doesn't really matter that much to me. Like, to some degree, that's sort of like, I can believe tomorrow that there is a god or goddess or something that is watching over me, protecting me, all of that. I have no way to prove that that is true or that is false. It doesn't help me at all knowing that it's true. And I think to some degree, it wouldn't really hurt me if I thought it was true either. Or I'm sorry, it wouldn't hurt me if I thought it was false. It's I guess it is to some degree I'm losing on the rationality because I have no clue that it's there in favor of comfort. But recognizing that it's not there doesn't have an express benefit to me, I suppose. It's a hard thing to explain.
That's the case. That's the case if you don't care about truth.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is the part that I don't get, because I care about truth. I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. I had to put on a T-shirt. I've been saying it for decades. Because I understand that if I believe something, that belief doesn't live in a vacuum. Every belief that I hold potentially informs actions that I'm going to take, because I always act in accordance with my beliefs, including beliefs that I may not even be aware of. I'm always going to act in accordance with my beliefs. And when beliefs come in conflict, there's going to be a prioritizing there of which ones do you take priority over if you reach this. But because we're always going to act in accordance with beliefs, if I believe something is false, whatever it is, that doesn't directly on its own cause a problem for me that I can see, it may cause problems that I can't see, but a problem I can see. Whatever heuristic is in my brain that led me to reach that false conclusion, that means my brain now has a problem-solving heuristic model that will result in false beliefs. And do you think that that little module is only going to be used for that one belief? Or do you think that there's a likelihood that it's going to spill over and be used for other things of a similar nature?
You raised a fair point, and I didn't think about that.
That's why I'm a skeptic. That's why I care about the truth. And so I would suggest, because, go ahead, Dave.
When you get used to believing things that aren't true, and you say that these things, or that you can't verify are true, and you want to believe them anyway, and you say it's really not doing any harm, it really is, based to the point that Matt just made. Because if there will come times when you believe something that doesn't have evidence, and it does impact you. And the other part of that equation is, if you believe some God is looking out for you, or some being is taking care of you, when you do something good or something good happens to you, you're not taking credit for that. You're giving the credit to some deity or some being or some entity that you don't even know is there. And that's going to impact you in a negative way over time, because it's going to affect your self-image and your self-worth in negative ways. You need to be in charge of your own life, taking responsibility for your own life, the good and the bad. When you fuck up, you own it. When something good happens and you get a win, you say, "Hey, that was good. I did that. I learned from that. I achieved something." There was no God helping you do that. And to think that is going to be a continually minimizing of your own worth and value and import. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. And I'll be honest, I didn't think about that. That's a new secret.
I tell you what, Mike. I got a couple more calls that I need to get to. What I recommend.
Oh yeah, please don't let me steal any more time.
No. What I recommend is this: I take on board the things that we said, and spend some time considering, what do you think you're going to do if an uncomfortable truth gets in the way of the comfortable preferred belief, and how you're going to deal with it. Because it could be the case that you will find a way to deal with it just fine. I just happen to worry that, as you create methods, heuristics in your head for how to solve problems, the ones that can solve problems incorrectly and yet in a comfortable way are perhaps the most dangerous and most pernicious, because comfort's a good thing. Comfort feels nice. Is it ever going to be easier to lie to ourselves than with something that's comfortable? I mean, I have a number of health issues beyond, the heart surgery. I do not, as far as I know, have anything terminal. But what if I did? And what if the beliefs that I had formed that were comfortable, that I couldn't see where they were harming me, were preventing me from discovering something that I could correct? What if that's what all of humanity is doing, or a good chunk of humanity is doing with respect to climate change? There are people who think, well, it's too late for us to do anything. And there are people who think, oh, we can't do anything anyway. And yet we don't know. And so what if we stick with the comfortable thing of the status quo? The status quo is often one of the worst things that we can stick with. But I would recommend thinking about those things and call back in if you have other questions, or if you come to some kind of epiphany about your views.
All right. I'll definitely think on that and sort of weigh my priorities definitely between sort of seeking the truth versus taking comfort in something sort of irrational. Thank you. I didn't ever really think about it in that context. You guys have really opened my eyes.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Much appreciated. Yeah. Good job, Dave.
Man, the honesty of
you always do a good job.
Well, I appreciate his honesty, just saying, I believe it because it makes me feel good. And God, I think that's so many theists, if they were honest, they would admit that. It's a security blanket, and it makes me feel better.
I tell you this, after I had my heart surgery, one of the things they told me is that you're probably going to find that you're more prone to crying. It's absolutely true. And originally I thought that they were saying it because, you've come face to face with your mortality. You come face to face with your mortality. That's not it. I don't know what it is, but I am way more prone to crying than I ever have been in my life. And I think part of it's because I don't think I cried at all for 25 years.
I like this side of you. I like this soft teddy bear side. I like it.
That makes me so happy that I want to cry, because I get a lot more flack than you do, but all of us get flack for, you guys ask people to call in and tell what they believe and why. And then when they try to do so, you just beat them up. I defy anyone to find a moment where someone had honestly answered questions and honestly presented their thing where we beat them up.
All we want
the second someone says, hey, I don't have a good reason. Cool. Let's talk.
All we want is an honest conversation, and it's so hard to find. Oh my God, is it hard?
Yes. We have 2 calls left, and we have Leonid in Florida. Franz or him, welcome. How are you?
Hi, Dave. Hi, Matt. Nice to talk to you today. First of all, I'm sad to hear that the GD show is taking a hiatus right now. I was a small fan of it. But a big fan of all of the guests that you had on the show.
Thank you.
But to the point of my question, I know we have little time right now, so I want to go back to the beginning of the show where Matt, you were asking how to prioritize things you focus on in your life. And I want to take it into a particular direction with my question. So a little backstory is I have a family right now who are in Ukraine in the middle of war. And when the war has started last year, I was kind of stuck in this doom scrolling loop where I would get news from multiple sources, watch a lot of videos on the war. And that started affecting my life tremendously negatively to the point I couldn't properly function. So I, at some point, decided to cut off parts of this negative thoughts source. And then eventually I trimmed it down to a bare minimum right now. And I wanted to pose this question to you guys. If you ever had to shut down a source of negativity in your life, could it be like a news source or a person or a friend? Have you ever done that? And would you consider that to be something, essentially a practice in terms of prioritizing what to focus on in life?
I do it all the time. Dave?
Yeah, I've had to as well. My actual birth father was a very, very toxic influence in my life. I spent years trying to curry a relationship with him where he had broken it, and I mean years. And I would allow him back into my life to disrupt and wreak havoc. And I finally, at the advice of my therapist, said, "No more. I'm not even going to read the letters he sends me." And he died when we were in that state. But I had to, for my own personal emotional well-being, draw some boundaries there. And that's a very extreme example, but I know that Matt and myself, we've done it with others, with other people in our lives who whose presence in our lives are toxic and damaging and traumatizing. And there's no win there. There's no gain. And it's not, they're not gaining from it. I'm not gaining from it. So why do we force ourselves to go through with this kind of thing? Now, your situation seems to be very challenging because you're talking about news from a land in war that you have family in, and that can be incredibly difficult to process. But I guess you're saying that the reality was there was not much you could do about it on a personal level on a daily basis, and the constant stream of negative news was causing a bad effect on you, and that, I think you were smart to minimize that, to shut that down. Matt?
Yeah, there's lots of different reasons why I will block someone or cut off certain things or stop watching news programs or whatever. When it comes on to a personal level, basically if someone is hateful, homophobic, transphobic, whatever like that, I have no problem at all blocking them and blocking them instantly. It doesn't mean I block all of them, including some right-wing lunatics, because some of them I will try to talk to if I'm optimistic about changing their mind or changing the mind, more likely, of someone who's watching the conversation. Because if these conversations are taking place in public, that's the reason for me, because I know there are people out there who share their views, but who aren't in the spotlight. They're not under fire at that moment. Sometimes I'll just do it just for fun or practice or amusement. But if I'm having a day where things are very overwhelming, or a lot of different things have been overwhelming, I will happily turn off the news, shut down social media, watch something educational. I watch a lot of educational reptile content on YouTube. I will go and play video games. Like yesterday, I did a live stream on YouTube on my main channel playing games. And one person afterwards commented, well, I don't have any interest in video games, so I'm going to unsubscribe, but I'll check back in from time to time. And I was like, no. Please don't. I don't need you. I don't want you. If me posting something that isn't about debating atheism for the first time really ever on my channel is enough for you to unsubscribe, go fuck yourself. Subscribe to somebody else, because I don't need that. And so those are the types of things that I'll block for, because some people are just toxic. They have to make my life is pretty much open to the public. You guys know way more about my life than you probably should, or than I should share. I share more than I probably should, but that doesn't mean it's yours. And when somebody acts like my life is yours, I'm just done. I don't need that in my life. But yeah, news sources and stuff like that, Leonid, I would absolutely, and have on occasion, cut news sources out. You can tell how much news I've watched in a week. Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes by what the topic is for the hang up. This week I had watched more news. Last week with Aron, I had watched actually considerable news, so it's not a good week to judge. We just already planned on doing the snake thing. But yeah, I think it's healthy. But I think that if you're turning out news sources, factually reliable news sources, because you just can't bear it right now, I'm not sure that doing that forever is smart. I think it's a good temporary mechanism. But I'd recommend talking to like somebody in the Secular Therapy Project, so that you can make sure that you're not overdoing your separation from news.
I see. Thank you for your thoughts, and it gives me food for thought for the future. And awesome. I hope not to take more time. I hope I wish you all of the luck, Dave, with your organization project, and thank you so much for taking the call.
Absolutely. Thanks. All right, we have one final call for today, sir. We have Morpheus. Pronouns are he, him in Georgia. He's a humanist. How you doing, Morpheus?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you guys doing, man?
Hey, Morpheus.
Hey, man. First of all, man, I want to say thank you, man, for your contributions, man, to provoking thought amongst people, man. I really love it.
Thank you.
And I've learned so much over the years listening to you guys, man. So first of all, if nobody's ever told you, thank you, guys. Okay,
I get,
so now,
get more thanks than I should probably deserve, but I appreciate it just the same.
Same.
okay, so here's my issue, right? Maybe you can help me out, Matt and Dave. Science and God. Now, to my understanding, God is a theological position. It's not a science position. Am I correct before I go on?
I'm not aware of any proposed God believed by any significant portion of the population, which is in fact scientifically investigatable. Subject to scientific investigation. That would be proper English.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right. So when they come on the show sometimes and they say they have evidence, I'm trying to figure out, how do you have evidence? Evidence is a scientific position. It's not a theological position, right? So I'm trying to figure that out.
Quite true.
I'm sorry?
You can have evidence for something, and the process doesn't necessarily count as science or as doing science. So, for example, there's a context in which, one of the common things people will be like, oh, prove love. Well, we can't. But love is the label that we put on a variety of human experiences. And some of those are detectable scientifically, like we can identify different brain states, but that doesn't mean that you've demonstrated love. And it doesn't mean that love is something that exists. It certainly doesn't mean that love is something that exists absence of a brain. But evidence are merely the facts that are consistent with, correlated with, and exclusive to one particular proposed explanation for a phenomenon. And there may be ways that we go about finding some things like love and whatever that aren't scientific, and yet they are still evidence-based things that are different from the supernatural that we can't explore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going, Matt. Because in my mind's eye, I look at it. It's like, okay, here's a chart. Okay, so I draw a line down the middle. Excuse me. So on the left side, I have everything in the natural universe. Right? On the other side, I have what they call the supernatural. So then I think and say, okay, well, what tools would one use to prove the right side? Because every tool that we have is on the left side. That makes sense?
Yeah. I've talked before about how people, you don't get to use the supernatural to propose an explanation for something that's observable in nature until you demonstrate that supernatural thing exists, how you detected it, and that it can in fact interact with reality, and how you know that. But yeah.
Okay. So I was right. Okay, cool. So right. So I always question, what tool would one use to prove or falsify the other side of the paper? Right? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's like, am I missing something? You know what I mean? Like, what tools would you use?
No, you're preaching my sermon.
Yeah, and almost without exception, anytime someone comes along and says that some scientific discovery has proven God or the Bible, it's always untrue. It's always false. There's not some demonstration from science that proves some God assertion. They're inconsistent.
Right. So when they come on and they propose or assert that they have evidence, shouldn't we at first ask, what kind of evidence is it, right? Is it empirical evidence? Is it testimonial evidence? Is it, you know what I mean? It's so many kinds of evidences. So we should say, like, hold up, what kind of evidence are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So, like the anecdotal evidence of a guy who thinks he interacted with demons. That's not evidence. That's your experience that you interpreted. That's not.
I get what you're saying, Morpheus. But to be very pedantic in answer to your question, if somebody says they have evidence for God, no, I don't think the first thing we should ask is what kind of evidence. Because if they say, oh, it's testimonial evidence, are you going to say, well, testimonial evidence doesn't count? Because while it may not be sufficient to warrant belief on its own, that doesn't mean you get to discard it. There's a reason why we allow for testimonial evidence in court, and that's to evaluate, are we convinced that this person is reasonable and telling the truth and the best, to the best of their ability and stuff like that. And so if somebody comes along and says, hey, I have evidence for God, I think a better first question, not that you were overlooking this and this is just me being pedantic, is which God are we talking about? Well, can you give me the characteristics here? And what is the specific nature of this evidence that you're presenting? And by that, I don't mean, is it testimony or whatever, but, what is the piece of evidence? And then what we should probably be doing, including myself, I don't do this often enough. I've seen other people do it, but I think we should all be sitting here saying, okay, the evidence that you're presenting, you are going to present, let's say, 4 pieces of evidence, and you think that this is enough to warrant belief in a particular God. So what you're saying is that there's some phenomenon within reality, or perhaps reality itself, and you're trying to come up with an explanation for it. And your prime candidate explanation is God, and specifically that God means these properties. And what you're presenting are the bits of evidence that perhaps not in a causal sense of necessary and sufficient and exclusive, but each piece of evidence strongly, specifically links the God that you're proposing to the phenomenon. Boom, 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 boom. And those same pieces of evidence can't be used to connect some other God to that phenomenon or some other explanation to that phenomenon. It needs to be exclusive to that. So the example that I've used many times is if we're trying to explain a dead body, you can't say the butler did it, and one of the pieces of evidence is that there's a dead body, because we're trying to explain how it died, and the dead body is consistent with the butler killing it, or Dave killing it, or me killing it. All of those are compatible. So it needs to be exclusively linked from the cause to the effect in the explanation sense. And so those are some of the key things about evidence that I think we should probably make sure we're focusing on more. And all of us, including me, you need to do that differently. I was almost ready to put on my my Jesus hat and pretend like I had evidence for God to illustrate this point. And then I thought, no, that would be cruel to do that to Morpheus, and I don't want to put the hat back on.
Yeah. Poor Morpheus.
Well, we lost Morpheus during that.
Did we really?
On that note, that was the last caller anyway. We're going to shut down the calls. Thanks so much for calling, Morpheus. My apologies that we lost you during that. I hope that all that got recorded and you can come back and see the explanation that I gave and that it's useful. And if it's not, find another explanation that's a bit more useful. We have super chats, Dave.
Yep.
This is the part of the show where people who like you donate to me.
Well, I'm happy to help.
Okay.
Sorry,
Curling Colonel. Hang on, I'm going to ban this little bitch in chat. There. Email me if you want to get back. Ooh, it says error, try again. It's not letting me do it. All right, we can alternate reading these.
I got to refresh. There's something about the system is not happy at the moment. Okay, there we go. Cool.
Well, if there's a mod who can do it, since I can't, feel free to ban Colonel, and they can email. Somebody wants to think that I'm rude. Okay, fine.
No.
Make your case, but do it in email. You keep bitching in chat. All you're doing is pissing off me and the mods. But 1999 from Greg Markowski, who's almost always first. Thanks so much, Greg. Thanks, Matt, for having such a great guest. That's my privilege and my pleasure. I love your show, and Jimmy, I love your network. There you go. See, there's people donating because they love you, Dave.
Greg's great. He was almost always first on my show too. He's super.
Hey, Dave, I was going to mention, once you get the 501c3 set up, tell me, and I'm going to send you the information so that you can set up where we can do a benefit on here where super chats go without YouTube taking a piece. Super chats go straight to the charity. Let me know when that's all done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jimmy.
We'll do something.
Yep. We'll have a launch party for you here and get you some ducats.
Awesome.
Your turn to read.
$10 super chat from Edge of Serenity. I think I got that right.
Wow.
Heart you, Dave. You are so nice to listen to and have such a big heart. And heart you, Matt. Followed you for years. It was so neat to see your snakes the other day. Honeycomb is so pretty. Trinage.
I love Honeycomb. She's the champagne entry that we got for free.
I saw that. She is gorgeous.
Yeah. I was stunned that we won her in a raffle at one of the reptile conventions. I'll keep going to reptile conventions just for the sake of chance of winning more snakes. $50 Canadian. Holy moly. That's like $2 American. No, that's a lot of money. I'm joking.
Lot, actually, yeah.
Nilly Wilson there. Thank you so much. Great to see you on the show, Dave. Just bought your book for a family member. Oh, that's so wonderful.
Thanks, man. I hope they enjoy it. Appreciate that.
On the other shows, we've been calling Canadian money alleged dollars.
Alleged
dollars.
$9.99 from Let's Tell New Gamers to hit the chickens on Zelda. Update on the wife. Second tumor was removed, and she celebrated by platinuming the new God of War. Trophy hunting on PlayStation really gave her a new lease on life. She can't wait to be cancer-free. That's wonderful news.
$10 alleged dollars and 1 alleged penny from Michael Briggs. Happy New Year from Victoria, BC, Canada, and I hope you're both doing well. I love BC. I've enjoyed your content from the start of COVID-19. A speaking engagement in Victoria, Vancouver would be great. I used to do a lot of them up there. As a matter of fact, when I did my 10-city tour of Canada with my Magic and Skepticism show, I flew to BC, which I've done 5, 6, 7 events there. And then we did the first one in Victoria City out on the island. I think that's correct. And then I worked my way across for that tour. I've been up there. I did events with the amazing Randy and Sean Farquhar, Murray Hatfield.
Nice.
I had Tracy Harris and Sarah Hayter come up there and join me. I did an event with Richard Dawkins there at BC, mostly at the Chan Center. I don't have any plans to get back there, but I don't have any objections either. So if you or somebody up there has an organization and wants me to come up and give a talk, we can talk.
I'll go with you. I had a Vancouver event canceled right at the outset of COVID. I was really bummed about that. $9.99 from, why do I get the hard names? Chakusaki. It is possible that a maximally powerful Burgle exists in one universe and therefore exists in all universes. You're not wrong. Burgle.
You are wrong, actually. But
I know.
Yeah, it's one of those frustrating things. But yeah.
I think it might be pronounced Hakuseki. If it's a reference to the movie, I think it's a reference to it.
I knew I would butcher that. So anyway.
$5 from Dion9981. When you said the universe is not infinite earlier, you made a claim. Science doesn't definitively know this. Can you prove that? Yeah, thanks. We already talked about this. So Dion just said keep the $5 since I already clarified it. And I intend to keep the $5 whether you said so or not.
That was also an accident. I don't usually it's $10 and above that we allow through for the final super chat thing. So we're not here all night. So well done, Dion.
That's all right.
You made it through.
Yep. That's all right though, because I saw it.
$20 from Larry Fishman. By now, the observable universe will have expanded to about 93 billion light years across. The same laws of physics apply to the entire universe. Therefore, a consciousness cannot exist without a physical substrate. Okay.
Real brave of John Doe in chat to be calling other people pussies when he hides behind pseudonyms, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, we got $20, right?
I'm tired of arguing with what I assume are fucking 15-year-olds. Whenever they come in with a name like Tupac or some anonymous thing. But thank you, Justin Miller, for the $20.
Yeah. $10 of alleged dollars from. Oh no, this is Australian. Or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So straight up fake money.
I thought it'd be AU. Anyway. So this is money that's upside down from Kids Love Satan. Learning the /S. Thanks so much.
So it's 1 cent.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of what you said.
Well played.
$20 from Emargin. Matt, please inform Torquemada, my God, these names, in chat that you're definitely Lilith. I recall the call you stated that in, and I'm sure you do too. And Dave, always awesome to see you and hear you talk. Oh, and here's $20. Thank you.
There was a call once upon a time on the Atheist Experience that I kind of remember. I think it was there. It may have been here, where someone referred to me as Lilith, and I think I just went with it. Your confidence that I would remember the call is a bit
ill-informed,
optimistic,
misplaced.
Yeah, my ability to remember calls is yeah. But thank you so much, Harmony.
This one's yours.
$20 for Skeptics and Scoundrels. Demons vary wildly in their efficacy. One demon torments a single person for decades to keep him from God, and another claims 2 billion souls from God by simply speaking to Muhammad in a cave. Give that demon a raise, Satan. Yeah, that's much more efficient.
Good point. $10 from Diane Upshaw. I encourage Matt to yell at Jimmy because he never reads my super chats.
Damn it, Jimmy, you better start reading Diane's super chats. Please.
I don't know that this is a factor. Well, I don't know.
Is that verifiable?
Diane's having fun.
Yeah.
Is this one me? $9.99 from Jaime Fillingham. Why do theists always bring God into discussions about science-related topics? I wish that everyone could just talk about the mysteries of the universe without bringing God and other deities into it. Yeah, I agree. Wow, all my notifications are going off. I need to mute that. Thanks, Mika. So here's the thing. When you don't know something,
it's okay to say I don't know.
Yeah. And theists, by and large, are the people who are least comfortable ever saying that they don't know something, especially something big or significant that they feel we should all know. Like, why is there something rather than nothing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
they deal in the realm of certainty.
A God is, for some reason that I don't completely understand, but I understand a little bit, a rather comforting answer. The idea that there's somebody out there who knows everything, who's the cause of everything, who thinks you're special, who's looking out for you, all of that answer can make the discomfort and existential anxiety that we might all be prone to feeling about not knowing things.
Yeah.
Can make that go away. Because, when I die, God's going to tell me everything. Well, first of all, you don't, even if there was a God, I don't think there's anything that ever said you're going to be told everything or have everything explained to you. But it's just enough for some people to know that I don't have the answer, but somebody does, and that's good enough. And I understand the appeal of that. I can't share it, but I understand it.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to propose that with such an Irish surname as Fillingham, that perhaps this was Jamie and not Jaime.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm going to go with the photo picture that it is Jamie.
Yeah.
And we'll apologize profusely. And you get one free super chat for that.
That's right.
$10 from Ryan Werner for the great mods of the line. Also, chat, could we all take a second to thumbs up the stream, please?
I did.
Yep.
I don't know whether or not liking it as the line is actually helpful. But yes, thank you to the mods tonight. I know we saw Dylan, Ilya, I Got Cookies, and Mika. And then a thank you tonight to T-Former and Alex, who were our screeners. Thank you.
$10 for Dante Verona. Just a thought. Tomorrow, I think the Republicans should all have squeaky shoes and put a red ball on their noses. I agree with you, sir.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous how much of a mess they are.
It's a clusterfuck. Yeah.
While the show was going, they only won the vote to adjourn by 2 votes. They almost got humiliated into doing it all night. And I kind of wanted it to happen, but 4 people didn't vote. And so it was, they won by 2 votes to even adjourn for the evening.
So Mika has a gorgeous leucistic Texas rat snake that has some of the biggest bug eye in an oddly shaped head that I've ever seen in a Texas rat snake. It's absolutely adorable. Thanks so much for sharing it.
Wicked.
$10 from the Logical Larynx. Prove love or give each other one genuine, heartfelt compliment. Your choice.
Dave, you are one of my favorite people on the planet. I value your input and feedback, and I am glad to know you and that I am your friend and that we're going to hang out. I can't prove love, but that's genuine.
And I can give you a similar heartfelt compliment. You are a genuinely good guy. You're misunderstood by a lot of people because you say, no, you're done. But you love to help people learn, and you're brilliant, and you cut to the heart of arguments and logical fallacies. And I can't tell you the number of people who've told me how much your show over the years and your conversations have helped them come to terms with their own thoughts and ideas, come to think more rationally, come to be more skeptical. You've just helped thousands probably of people. So
okay, no more super chats that encourage us to do that stuff.
Yeah, I hate it. I was going to join in. I was like, damn, Matt, you have like just a really great keyboard.
I do.
I know. I can hear it. I set that up. Okay, here we go. Here's the next one.
Oh, I thought you meant the one downstairs in the living room. I didn't know this one.
No, your gaming keyboard.
I think this one's yours, Dave.
$9.99 from Shannon Mac. Hi, Dave. So happy when you're co-hosting. Your kindness rubs off on me. Thank you. Looking forward to your new book. Thank you. And hi, Matt. And hi, Jimmy. Y'all make my life better. Burgle, burgle, manergle, burgle.
Thanks, Shannon.
Hey, Shannon. Good to see you, Shannon.
Shannon's in my Twitch stream every day, like as one of the first ones when I go live, and that's always nice.
Yeah, she's awesome.
50 pseudo dollars Canadian from Katy Montgomerie. One, I loved the Snake Show. They're so cute. I did too. I had so much fun. And we just keep getting more. Like I have more coming. Aaron has more coming. Dave, your book helped me think about how to reclaim living. How to reclaim living my life as a former theist with a complicated, unpredictable autoimmune disease. Thanks, and I'm looking forward to your next book.
Well, thanks you, Kathleen. I'm glad. I appreciate that.
That was allegedly a very generous donation. Thank you.
Very.
Oh, yes. That was wonderful.
I'm allegedly thankful.
$10 from Jeff Meager. Once again, you are all legends. # Jimmy Snow rules.
Aw, I'll tell you.
See, there you go.
Matt, I don't know if you would. I was thinking about this earlier because we had talked once upon a time about who was going to add on, like, could be backup production. And we had talked about if something went bad, you potentially being like backup. And tonight was the hardest night to not jump in on calls. I so enjoy doing the call shows that when I'm producing, it's now tough to not be hosting. It sucks.
I've done it. I've done it. It does suck. Yeah. But I can absolutely sit there and produce TACIS or HOSTility. Well, you're going to be there for HOSTility, but I can help out without having to need to call. But what I end up doing is when I help out on other shows, I have an after show with the hosts of it to vent my thoughts and frustrations because otherwise they will eat me alive. But
I'm not trying to start a fight here, but do you remember the one time that the screener couldn't connect last minute? So I was like, hey, Matt, we've got like 4 minutes of the show. I'm just gonna screen these calls real quick live before we actually start the show. I'll just screen them real quick. And you started arguing during the screening with someone. That's what I'm talking about. You don't remember that?
I don't.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was a few months ago, but I've told that story now like 9 times.
I know I've done that pre-show on AXP. There'll be somebody call in. Specifically, we'll get calls screened up before the show, and someone will want to talk to me about something I said. And if I'm hosting and I think, hey, this isn't actually going to be good for the show, because despite what some people think, the show's not supposed to be about me.
Yeah.
And so if somebody comes in just to have beef with me about something I said, I'd rather just handle it offline. So I've had a couple like pre-show arguments on AXP in the last few years, but
the topic was a guy said that he has a definition of the soul, and he didn't know that you were connected to when I was coming in and screening.
Oh, I remember.
Because there's that. Yeah, he said he had a definition of the soul he believed you would agree with.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
I definitely wouldn't have done it if he hadn't invoked me.
Yeah.
God damn it! If you're going to call me out You know, it's like that the gentleman William, who we were talking to earlier, where you got to be open to it and saying the demon's name. If you say my fucking name, you better keep my name out your mouth unless you're ready to answer for it.
That'll haunt you.
$10 from Harry Chairstepper. I don't understand that name, but I like it.
It's an inside joke with Harry's mother. I've actually asked Harry about it.
Oh my
All
God.
right.
Yeah.
Dave, would you be willing to give a few of the Bible passages you mentioned in your Divorcing Religion interview that helped you deconstruct? Also, thanks to both of you, step the Harry chairs.
Oh God, Jason, I don't remember that interview. I'm sorry. I've done so many. I know that I don't recall a specific Bible passage. I probably talked about looking at the Gospels because I believed in an infallible, inerrant Bible. And I looked at the Gospels and lined up passages from the 4 Gospels, and they didn't line up. There were many contradictions, especially around the resurrection account. And that caused me to really, for the first time, ask questions about if they can't get this right, the most important part of the Bible, the most important thing, according to Paul, if the resurrection be not true, then our faith is in vain. Well, They didn't get that right, and so it caused me to question everything. That may be what you're referring to, but thank you.
I would recommend the easiest thing to do, rather than trying to get Dave or myself to go back and remember what we said on any particular podcast, because my Divorcing Religion podcast thing just went live like a day or two ago to kick off the new year, but I recorded it like a month ago. I couldn't tell you what I said at all.
I don't remember one.
The best thing to do is watch it again.
Yeah, just go watch it. That's a good point.
Watch it on 2x speed. If you've heard it once, you can hear it the second time in half the time.
$20 from JK. That's a name I can say. Fine show. Good callers. Thanks. Or callers. Yeah.
$15 from Richard Gitschlag. Thanks so much, Richard.
$20 from the Grumpy Gardener. So happy to catch a live one. FBMB. I had a ball python for 20 years, and she was the best. I'd like an amethystine python. They can be bitey a-holes, but are fun. How do you say that? Amethystine.
Amethystine.
How do you say it? Yeah, okay.
I don't say it.
No.
I'm not even sure. I think that's a species that I am not familiar with.
Oh, okay.
I know a lot, and I know a lot of pythons, but I am not going to remotely pretend to know all of them. So I'm actually going to Google that right now and check it out, because what ends up happening is every time Arden and I discover some new species, we want it.
Of course you do.
Oh, it's a scrub python. It's another name for a scrub python.
Amethystine. Amethystine. That's how I say it, I'm sure.
And just so you know, Dave,
yeah, it's
FBMB.
It's a Morelia.
Go ahead.
FBMB what?
Stands for Fergalbergal Manergalbergal. You had said
I knew
FBM.
that did.
Okay.
I knew it did, but I didn't want to try to say that again.
Got it.
Yeah, I know about scrub pythons and a lot of the Morelia species, and I've had carpet pythons before. I just hadn't heard this term for it, which I guess is the common name. So Morelia amethystina. Sweet. $9.99 from Hakuseki. Don't want to kink shame, but McCarthy seems to have a profound humiliation fetish by racking up L after L these past few days chasing Speaker of the House. I suspect you may be correct.
Uh-huh. Something's going on there.
By the way, I'm going to put out, before we read this one, I'm going to put out a call for any of my fans or friends in Brazil or South America. There is I'm going to make use of my platform unfairly. There is a particular species of tricolor hognose, Xenoden hystricus, which I think is commonly known as Jan's hognose snake, that I can't find anywhere, can't find it on Morph Market, can't even find anybody that's capable of importing it. I don't even know what the status of it is. If living in South America and you can get your hands on a breeding pair or just a male-female pair of Xenodon hystricus, and if it can be exported to the United States, I am interested. There
you go. $20 from Sarah Dye. Hey, Sarah. Hi, Dave, Matt, Jimmy. I love you all. Thank you for a great show and all that mushy love stuff you guys just did. Yeah. See, some people like it. Sarah, good to see you.
I like it.
We'll
I just
see Sarah
don't like
at
when
the beach soon.
I cry once a year. I get mushy once a year. It's on New Year's every year, whatever show I'm doing, and then that's it for the rest of the year.
$10 from Olivia Maynard. I love all the shows. Everyone helps me think more rationally. Thanks so much, Olivia.
$10 from Thomas C. Thank you, Thomas.
20 euros from Rebecca Borg. May you direct me to a resource to understand what falsifiable means. I understand that the validity of a premise hypothesis needs to be falsifiable, but not what this actually means. It means that it can, in principle, and hopefully in reality, be demonstrated possibly to be false if in fact it is false. If there's something for which there would be no way to show that it's false, then it is functionally not testable. I would start at the Wikipedia article on falsifiability and testability, but call Representative Santos Arias Broding's connections. That might be useful. Honestly, Rebecca, that would be the best place to start, because once you get to the Wikipedia article, it can show you the references that lead to it, because falsifiability, oh my gosh, I'm going to stop there because I'm forgetting a name that I wanted to remember. But
well, we've got $100 from Chris Bartley. Love your show, longtime listener, first-time donor. And if anyone donates $50 in the next 5 minutes, I'll donate another $100. Challenge. There's a challenge.
Can the person who donates the 50 be me?
He didn't specify.
It's already happened, though.
Oh, it did? All right, sweet.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, the Wikipedia article on falsifiability is actually really good, and it will lead you into stuff about Karl Popper, who essentially is the one who originally presented, or at least popularized, the notion of falsifiability, the notion that something could be demonstrated to be false, and being able to say, oh, so for example, the famous quote from, I think it's Stephen Jay Gould, but I may be misrepresenting who said it, is somebody said, what would falsify evolution? And they said fossil rabbits in the Precambrian. And so that what they mean by that is, if you were to find fossilized rabbits in the Precambrian strata, that would demonstrate that our current model of evolution is in fact wrong. You would have falsified a significant chunk of it, because there's no way that can happen given our current model.
This one's yours.
$50 from Bio Junkyard. Chris Bartley, challenge accepted. Ooh. Thank you, Bio Junkyard, for donating $150, 100 of it being from somebody else.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and you know what's even cooler than one person taking that challenge? Two people taking that challenge and not realizing the other ones were. This is a fucking awesome night. So cool.
I'm glad I could help. $50 from the Logical Larynx. Chris told me to.
And then the follow-up from Chris Bartley.
I am a man of my word. And that is greatly appreciated, as is your generosity. We are constantly blown away. I do this because I love it. I do this because I have to. My Wednesdays are so much better just getting to hang out and talk with my guests and with Jimmy and with the mods. The fact that anybody else bothers to show up and engage and support what we do, I kid you not, I'm frequently genuinely overwhelmed, and I'm not always the best at saying thank you and that kind of stuff. And I need to get better at that, but thank you.
Yeah.
I think what Matt's trying to say, and I'm willing to mute him for the rest of the show if I have to, is this is the best call-in show he's ever been a part of.
There are certainly things about it that make that true.
Cool.
$20 from Matt Class. All of you have been a constant source of inspiration to me for years. Thanks for doing and being all you do and are. Warnock is a constant source of positivity and consideration. Thank you, Matt.
I think it's one of my favorite things because I've watched Dave go off on callers in a way where I was like, God damn, I don't think I'd have said that. And yet somehow it's like Dave's always the nice one, Dave's always the sweet one, and I'm the prick. And I'm like, I'll take it. I don't mind, but it's funny. And I've seen the same thing. I've seen Mandisa, who will be on the show sometime in the near future, I hope. I've seen Mandisa do it. I've seen Shannon has been fucking brutal to the point where I was like, God damn, I would not want to be on the other side of this call. And yet Shannon's the sweet one. And I love it because I love Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
The comments say that I'm the nice one of the two of us on our shows we do together. I say fuck you and dipshit way faster than I've never heard you call someone dipshit on an episode. Oh, another one just came in. I thought we were closing out. Here we go.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
$10 to JCMFV. Loved your Divorcing Religion interview, Matt. Thank you. Dave, love all your XP and other shows. Sending all my prayers and faith to you.
I'm feeling it. Feeling the prayers.
Oh, feel it. So this has been absolutely wonderful. There's a bunch of stuff going on. I'm not sure who is on with me next week. I don't have anybody currently booked. Maybe I'll hear from Genevieve by then.
I will message her when we get done here tonight and say, hey, give Matt a buzz. He'd love to have you on next week. So how's that?
That'd be great. And I got tons of other friends that I want to get back on. I want to get Shannon back on and Forrest on. I know they're busy working on other shows here, which reminds me, Jimmy, you want to give a rundown of what's coming up show-wise over the next week until I'm back on Wednesday?
Yes. Tomorrow you have Student Dr. Ben and Katy Montgomerie. That'll be a killer show on the Transatlantic Call-In Show at 2 p.m. Central Time. Then on Sunday, Matt and I will return for another episode of The Sunday Show. Monday will be an episode of HOSTility with myself and an awesome creator called Eve Was Framed. Sorry, that's Tuesday.
Oh,
Eve Was Framed is Tuesday.
Eve coming on.
Eve's coming Tuesday.
Love
Monday is Skeptalk with, I think, but I'm still confirming, Aron and Forrest. I believe that's...
if it's Aron and Forrest, I might have to not do some other things on Monday so I can hang out.
I got to tell you, you're probably going to want to multitask because that sort of Evolution Super Show will probably go for 6 hours. I just don't see us getting out of there early.
It would not surprise me. I've watched Forrest do like 4 hours on his own. He's like me. Like, I'll talk all day.
Yeah, he's brilliant. When was the Eve Was Framed show?
That'll be next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central Time.
What show is that?
It's called HOSTility. Everything's on this channel, though, this network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're having her on. She's a dear friend of mine and
she's
a brilliant young woman. Yeah. Cool.
So rather than putting a ridiculously saccharine bow on this, first of all, let me say a huge thank you to Jimmy for producing this, to Dave for being here as my guest. I can't wait till we actually get to hang out in person again. I've missed you like crazy. Thanks to everybody who watched, who chimed in, who called in. I hope you guys can see that the calls get better when the callers work with us. Mm-hmm. And that if we end a call and we still don't agree, I don't hate you. It doesn't mean I think you're an idiot. We didn't have to yell at each other. We're still in disagreement, but hopefully we've each learned one more thing so that the next time we get to have a conversation, it goes even more smoothly. Despite what you think, smoothly, not smoothie, despite what you think, Dave and I aren't here to try to trick you or trap you into giving an answer or to do any of the things like that. We just want to say, tell us what you believe and why, because we used to believe those things and we don't. And sometimes it's confusing to us how somebody can have those conversations and still hang on to them. And I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate the calls. Dave, when can we get you back? You don't have to commit to a day right now.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do it. I love coming on. This is a great show. I love being on with you. And so, reach out again. We'll talk. And I'd love to do it again soon.
Well, we're going to set up a fundraiser for your 501c3, but Dave, close us out. Tell people where they can find you, where they should look for you, especially with GT on hiatus. And you finish us out.
The easiest way to find all of what I've got going on is the website, daveoutloud.org. And we'll have links to everything on there. The 60 at 60 fundraiser, the trail run that Bevan's doing. And matter of fact, Kenneth Leonard, he's actually going to be helping with that. He's running the same race, as it turns out. So we'll be doing that, and then we'll have updates on the nonprofit as we get it developed, updates on the book that I'm writing. All the things that I'm doing will be linked from the website. You can sign up for our news. We have an email list there. We don't inundate people with emails, but if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, just when you go to the website, daveoutloud.org, there's a place that pops up immediately to sign up for the email list. And that will keep you updated on everything we're doing, places that we're going to be speaking. As a matter of fact, Matt, I saw that you and I are sharing the platform at a conference in Sarnia, Ontario in this summer, the Baja
Yes.
Con. So I was
I got to get my passport renewed. But also, thanks for reminding me I need to get Kenneth Leonard back on here.
Yeah, Kenneth's great. He's back in the saddle a little bit since they've had their baby. I think he took some time off from everything, but I talked with him the other night. But
Good guy.
That's the best way to keep up with everything is just to get to the website, and we'll be updating everything on there as it happens.
Tune into the other shows, and I'll be back Sunday with Jimmy, and next Wednesday with someone who I'm not going to tell you about yet because I haven't decided. Take care.
Bye-bye.